have Daniel from the band Hawk Nelson on the show, and I have to ask you, first question, anything new going on in your life?
Oh, other than COVID-19, big announcements from the band,
Yeah.
trying to adopt some kids from Haiti.
Are you really?
Yeah,
That's kind of cool.
we were supposed to be meeting them in March when the whole, everything shut down. So that hasn't happened yet.
Oh, wow. Well, I hope that can get going pretty soon. I was just kind of talking about the whole band stuff, with Jon, y'all's lead singer, like publicly stepping away from his faith recently. And I just want to underscore, like, I understand the big questions that he's wrestling with. I've wrestled with those for years. I came down in a different place than he did. And so all of this conversation isn't to talk behind Jon's back, but I do want to have a conversation with you as a friend of his. Like, what is it like for you as a bandmate, a friend, when someone walks away from something that bonded you together? Like, how do you process that? Like, how long have you guys known each other?
Oh man, Jon and I go back to like before even Hawk Nelson was a band. So we're talking like around the year Y2K, what is that, 20 years?
Gee.
And I was actually a fan of Jon and his music and his writing before he even joined the band. So we go way back. He's pretty much, I would dare to say, my best friend.
And that's tough, though, because like now you're on different pages faith-wise, but I would assume that you guys still, like, some things you kind of with your friends just agree to disagree. Going from someone who was in a place of faith with me to then not, I think that would be kind of tricky, but you guys are still buds, right?
Oh, 100%. I mean, right away, like, Jon and I were texting and calling. He gave me notice that he was going to post that. We've had this conversation going for basically 20 years. And, I think it's very rare if any two of us are exactly on the same page on every front in life, physically, mentally, spiritually. As much as like this has been a weird process, I feel like this is still really a healthy thing for Jon. And so we're going to support him in this. Sure. And my faith doesn't hinge on somebody else's. So that's okay. We can still be solid in what we believe, and I think this is good for him.
I would imagine for him, if I was wrestling through that stuff, which I have here too, like you head down and you keep doing your job, but there's a point at which for you it breaks personally, but then you're also going, when I'm responsible for other people's careers, I got to stay in this a little longer. Did you guys ever kind of discuss like how that felt or feels?
Yeah, I think like as everyone's been kind of growing up and having families, there's been this temptation for Jon to get off the road, and that's good to be around his kids. And he actually hung in there longer than he desired. I think, like you're saying, for the camaraderie and the band of brothers that we are. I will say that this brings up a lot of theology, and like it makes me wrestle with why I believe what I believe, and it's been really good for me and healthy, even though it's kind of been painful in some ways. I feel like it's been a good thing, and I believe that like Jon just being honest is the most important starting place.
Here's the thing, like, with you, doing this and you guys writing songs, what would you say to people that then question the validity of the music because Jon was wrestling through, the faith questions while still continuing to write songs and be in a Christian band?
I think that actually, like, that is maybe one of the healthiest places you can be when songwriting, is when you're going through trials and struggles and you're questioning things and you're like, asking God for help. I mean, what could be more real in a song than that?
This is the thing that always strikes me about this is like, artists writing music are flawed individuals. No one's perfect. We know that. And so to me, like, a song that was truth 5 minutes before a press release is still truth. Just because the artist that wrote it has now had, like, you could call it a crisis of faith, or you could call it a setback, you could call it a total departure, whatever it is, that doesn't mean that what was written that 5 minutes before that we all heralded as truth isn't true anymore. God's truth is so much bigger than our labels and the things that we attach to it. And it's kind of like elevating the vessel over the message. And I think that's dangerous, man, because then no one can mess up.
That's totally valid. I think if you, like, that was perfect. Like, the message of truth is what transcends all this stuff. And that should be lasting with time. And if it doesn't last, then that just means it's just a bad song.
Yeah, exactly. I would imagine, here's what I'm curious about. We kind of touched on this earlier, but like, so you've got a friend that walks away from church, and I saw so many people on Jon's feed saying, oh, I'll pray for you. Jon, we're praying for you. If I'm Jon and I don't believe in God anymore, I'm like, well, that's nice, but save your breath, because it doesn't matter. Or I'm also like, well, wait, you're praying for me because you want me to come back to this place that you feel that you're right on and I'm wrong. Like, is that a weird thing, do you think? Like, I don't know that I would ever say I'm praying for you for him.
Yeah, it depends on like the motivations behind those prayers. I think the truth is that, like, as I've dove into apologetics and all this stuff, it's not necessarily like you can reason or rationale like God one way or another. It comes down to personal experience. And so instead of like praying for Jon, like my aspiration is that like he would have an encounter with God, in a way that makes sense for him.